So I think I might have found a new algorithm for us to exploit, which is kind of exciting.
Go ahead.
I've started putting this podcast on YouTube, and then I noticed that because before, if you look at YouTube, they had this list that said, "Oh, this is a playlist," and then they had this new one that popped up that said podcast, right? And I'm like, oh, they're gonna push podcasts now on YouTube, so we're gonna push podcasts on YouTube now. And yeah, and I put.
It's funny because I actually got a message like that myself. Like there's a message. It was because I think, what was it? YouTube is now pushing. YouTube now has a podcast channel, and there's someone else who has a podcast channel now too. Like everyone is trying to move into the podcast game. Like as of last week. So I think you might be in the right space, the right time again.
Yep. Because I think Spotify's hit maturity because we have a certain amount of people that seem to listen consistently, but it's not really growing. And also, I mean, in fairness, I did change the subject, the category, the name. Like, I spent 3 years experimenting with this podcast on Spotify to the point where I can't blame somebody to be like, well, I don't know what the fuck this show is about, because clearly neither did I. But now I do, and I'm like, oh, the algorithm's given up on me now.
Well, if those 3 years experimenting on Spotify help us succeed on YouTube, then it will be worth it.
I think it will, because I know what this show is now. This show here, I think it's just me and you talking. And it's about writing.
Bros shooting the shit.
Bros shooting the shit. It's about writing projects we're working on, classic sci-fi, and
this is which is basically what every great podcast is about. Is just at least. You could probably do a podcast alone if you were like a one-man band. But it's at least two people. It doesn't have to be dudes. It doesn't have to be just dudes or just women. But it's just at least two people shooting the shit.
I seem to do best. This show works the best when I have a partner. And you have been the most consistent partner I've had on this. That's not against anyone else I've worked with. I love everybody who's been on here. But you're the one that's like, oh, I want to do this every single week, because everyone else has 5 kids or something.
Well, I mean, to be fair, a big part of it is, I mean, look what I'm doing this summer, which we'll get to, obviously, to pump the brakes. But look at where I am this summer. I'm like 3 states away. So if we want to hang out this summer, we basically have to do it here in this podcast. I'm saying.
What I've been doing on the YouTube channel all day, I haven't even touched the Over Goodbye in days, because I've been.
You're fine.
But on the YouTube channel, so I haven't known. I started that YouTube channel in 2017, and I have just been using it for just experimentation. I haven't really had a focused battle plan for it the whole time. And now, if they're going to start pushing podcasts, and then I thought, oh well, that's how I'll organize everything. I'll have 3 separate quote unquote podcasts, basically piles of like content that are kind of generally separated. There'll be the Blanket Fortress Solitude podcast channel on there, or Blanket Fortress Solitude podcast on there, that has all of our shows, you and me, plus all of the other different versions of the podcasts that I've done that are on YouTube, right? It's all going to be under that umbrella. Then there'll be Literature for Warriors, which will be a second podcast through our YouTube channel, which will be all of our original science fiction. I've already got 20 some odd episodes there already from random things I've been experimenting. And a lot of that stuff's just like, I've been developing it over the last couple years. And then I always wanted a little, I wanted a YouTube channel where I'm like, oh, it's just like, it's like Dust. You know what Dust is?
Oh yeah. I used to follow.
Sci-fi.
Yeah, I know what it is.
You know what it is? It's a YouTube sci-fi channel where they do like just short form audio content, and they'll be like,
they do video too.
They do video too.
Yeah, but yeah, I know exactly what it is because I used to follow. I know what it is. I used to follow them on Facebook.
Yeah,
I would see all their updates and be like, I want to watch that, and they'd be like, I never watch it. You know, I never sat down to watch it because they're all like, I feel terrible admitting that, but it's like, you know, it's the death of the attention span. You know, it's like, oh, well, it's 20 minutes long. I want to watch it so bad, but I don't have time to sit down and watch it while I'm working and going to school.
Well, because the stuff they put on there, you have to like actually pay attention to. You can't just be like whoever's listening to this podcast just has us on in the background, or it's just like random person, or it's Cassie probably listening to this. I don't know, but
Hi, Cassie.
And but no, and the third one's gonna be potatoes from space, 3 exclamation points, right? Because that's a stupid title. It's a stupid title, and it makes me so happy. And it's gonna be everything else is gonna be on the Potatoes from Space channel or podcast. All of this under the Blanket Fortress of Solitude umbrella. That'll be the name of the channel on YouTube.
Cool.
I might change it back to Divided by Zero Books. What do you think?
I was about to say, having an umbrella title that's not the same as one of the titles under the umbrella might be a better tactic, because that way you've got like an umbrella title and then you've got branches kind of hanging down from that tree or from that umbrella.
Perfect.
It's kind of like I really liked your idea of like having spacers be like the standard brand umbrella title for all of the Spacer Saga stuff.
Yeah.
At least the stuff that isn't main story. Because, like, for example, some of the things that are like mainline stories will probably be named a little bit differently. Like, there's the Spacer Saga Frontier Wars is my like working title for what I call the main story, which is the one that I've had in some form or another for almost 20 years now.
They're like Cam?
No, that's the one about Matt, Devin, and Sam. 3 characters you haven't even met them yet. but these are the 3 main characters that I've had in some form or another since I was like in 4th grade.
Wait, I haven't met the main characters yet?
You're still shallow in the lore, young grasshopper.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I cannot wait. I'm so excited. I can't tell you how excited I am to open up Shadowplay and see your draft and see, because you're a really good writer, man. Like, you are, and I really look forward to it. And but enough about that. What is this short story you're telling me about?
Sure, that's actually a nice segue, because I was just thinking about that. I wanted to like sort of plug that a little bit myself. I had a crazy idea, and I'm gonna tell you this crazy idea now because I've calmed down a bit and it's no longer like a bug in my brain, because I went ahead and wrote this short story and exorcised the demon, so to speak.
I get that.
I had a crazy idea that almost had me on the edge of rewriting the entire lore. And I literally told the people on Tough Sci-Fi that if I did that, my publisher would literally kill me.
I would appreciate it if you didn't.
Yeah. But I mean,
we're so close. Listen, when Shadowplay is ready, when it's printed, that's the lore, man. Like, we gotta stick to a story. We already have our false start, and that's okay. We can call that like a parallel universe. Shadowplay is gonna be it's the lore.
That's the thought I had. But because I'll tell you this like I don't even know what to call it. It's not really an offshoot. It's really like a very, very far away sequel. Okay. Because what it is, I was looking at some post, I want to say on Reddit, and it was talking about how, just so you know, I think it was one of those like, TIL, today I learned that, and it was talking about how in like 5 or 6 billion years time, when the sun turns into a red giant and eats Mercury and Venus and maybe the Earth, the outer planets like Jupiter and Saturn, their moons might become habitable for life as we know it, or more similar to life as we know it. Huh. And I thought, I want to run with that. So long story short, after thinking, oh, I could make humans the precursor aliens, what I did is I compromised and I wrote a short story where there's these beings called the Zadari, who I kind of stole the name from some old lore that I wasn't using anymore because there aren't really aliens in the Space Saga universe as it stands now, at least not like a multitude of them like there used to be. And I turned the Zadari into this race that lives on like the far distant future of Titan, and they're like investigating this weird like innermost planet closest to their home star that's like been fried by the star's radiation, but there's some cool ruins there. We're gonna get the main character of the short story is like this archaeologist who's kind of like this wide-eyed archaeologist, kind of like Daniel Jackson, except he's got 6 legs and he's got 6 limbs instead of 4. He's on this like ship going to this innermost planet to join the investigations there, and he's talking with this elder scientist who posits that the precursors, these beings who lived in this universe or in the solar system long before them, actually evolved there, which is like seen as preposterous by the other being, because like, oh, how could anyone have evolved in this solar system so long ago that the star wouldn't have even, our local star, which they call I can't remember what I called it. It's like Juba. That's it, Juba, because I put some Easter eggs in the naming, but we can get to that later.
Okay.
And, they're like, but basically the long and short of it is that it's kind of a very, I won't say very complex, because obviously it's only like a 14-page short story, but it's basically the same twist as Planet of the Apes. The big sort of subtle twist, which is never explicitly stated, because it's only said through things like, oh, these beings, these precursors, we understand from artifacts that we found that they were bipedal, they had 4 limbs, and they breathed oxygen. It's basically saying, oh, this is our solar system 7 or 8 billion years in the future, and humans are like the ancient aliens.
Okay, I'm excited for this. This is great.
Yeah, it was fun to write because it was some of the most pure sci-fi I've written in a while. Because a lot of I won't say my sci-fi is not like pure sci-fi, but a lot of my sci-fi is more like military sci-fi or like political sci-fi. This is more like, I think when you get a chance to read it, whenever that is, you will enjoy it, because it's kind of more like classic, like Arthur C. Clarke or Isaac Asimov, or maybe even Heinlein. These guys who wrote these weird like big concept stories that were so far removed from like what humans do, but still had elements of the human experience, but were like really like lofty ideas. Because again, it's like there's all the main characters in this story are aliens, and they're like aliens that exist billions of years in our future. So none of them have anything. They have no frame of reference for us. They're just sort of finding our trash, basically, like spacecraft we left dormant after we died out or left the solar system because the sun went red giant, stuff like that. And they're kind of like, and in a way, that's kind of a tongue-in-cheek sort of poking a little bit of fun at archaeology, because it's like we're just trying to guess, basically make educated guesses at the lives of people who lived thousands of years ago. How are these beings supposed to make educated guesses at the lives of people who lived billions of years ago?
What's the word count on it?
Here, let me check. I've actually got it open. So, sorry. The word count is about 5,300.
Oh, perfect. Is it done?
Yeah, it's done. I mean, there's probably some polishing I want to give it. Like I shared it on Tough Sci-Fi, the Tough Sci-Fi Discord, on the writing and fiction tab or channel, and I actually got some nice feedback. One of the folks there read it and gave me some feedback. He said it was really awesome work. Just gave me some like suggestions for like how to maybe fix some paragraphs and things like that. So I'll probably let you take a look at it, see what you think, see if you can think of any ways that it can be improved, because you have obviously a good editorial eye, in addition to having lots of experience reading sci-fi to sort of give it a frame of reference. And then we can probably do whatever you want with it. We can.
How do you feel about me? How do you feel about me doing it like we have been? Like I do a draft on it, and then you do a final draft. Well, this will be a lot shorter process.
Oh yeah, because It's like one chapter of one of my regular things.
Yeah. So like you kick it to me, I don't even know, because military sci-fi is more my wheelhouse. So if this is more esoteric and more,
when I say esoteric, I mean it's not like it's because it's you'll see what it is. Yeah, it's hard sci-fi, but it's like it's more like sci-fi-ish sci-fi than it is like about like military lifestyle and like politics and human clashes and conflict and so on.
So here's what we'll do. If you like, you kick it to me, I'll do a draft. I'll kick it back to you. You do the final draft. It'll be the first thing we put up on the blog, Literature for Warriors.
Yeah.
And then we'll record it. And because 9,000 words is about an hour. So this is going to be about a half-hour story.
Yeah.
I think, if my math is correct.
Maybe like 40 minutes, depending on how fast we read.
Yeah. And yeah, it could be, because we can say I can do that, because I'm so close to be done with Europa.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just kind of, because what I'm kind of doing now is I'm organizing the YouTube channel into 3 podcast section channel things.
Yep.
And because I finally have an idea with how to organize the YouTube channel, and I'm realizing, it's just like a junk drawer in a kitchen almost. But send it to me. I'm gonna. What day is today?
Today's Tuesday. Tuesday the 6th. Happy D-Day.
What's that?
Happy D-Day.
Oh right, this was D-Day. I should know that. I kept seeing
your lore, dude.
I kept seeing. Well, it wasn't my war.
Not your war. It's not any of our war. But I mean, your branch.
I know. I should know these things better, but I don't. Like, I know more about like the Iraq War and stuff, but because that was the one. That was the one I did. But yeah. And that'll be like the first one we do on literature on the blog. And
I just had a sort of half crazed thought. I
saw your eyes get big.
Yes, you saw my eyes get big. I'm sure you did. I actually pitched. You may remember, the guy who did the cover art for Rebirther. The picture of the guy like getting progressively crazier as he gets reanimated over the course of years. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you as a refresher because I've got it saved, obviously. And it's
artwork that you've had commissioned that is original.
Yes, this is an original. Yes, so
cool.
I own it, but obviously I would credit the guy. But I pitched this guy with doing a piece for actually something that I was going to put on the blog, which I know I've been kind of neglecting because I don't really have any new material that I'm like, eager to put up there until I can maybe scrounge some things together. But I was thinking, I just had this crazy thought. What if I pitched this commission to this guy doing something for this story, which I call epitaph. We can work on the title if we need to, but I call it epitaph because it's kind of like an epitaph to the human species. It's like that's the style reference I'm making.
That really works for what you described.
Yeah,
I like that.
So it's like maybe we could call it the Spacer Saga epitaph or something like that.
Yeah.
And I could maybe commission an art piece to like be the thumb. Well, obviously it would be the thumbnail, but it would also be like the background picture for the for whatever we put on YouTube. Because I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to step on the toes of Matt and whatever else we have on for like the YouTube video, but that would probably be a great like visual aid. Like say, hey, look at this cool thing that we made. This is what the aliens look like, and this is some of their like what the story is.
I've already got Matt doing 2 things for me, so you're not stepping on anyone's toes. He's already booked. Like, and he probably has like a life and a family and things.
Yeah, and I know he's running all over doing Best Buy stuff, which is more power to him. I could not handle that myself. I quit while the quitting was good.
He did tell me someone threw a monkey at him once.
Like an actual monkey?
like a living monkey, like a little monkey, just kind of screamed at him, threw the monkey at him, and then he ran out of the house.
Okay. Well, Matt always did have crazy stories. Now he's got one more.
Exactly.
Have I ever told you this? He may have told you this at some point, because it wouldn't surprise me if he told you this joke as well, especially considering that you're Irish, right? You're of Irish descent. Yeah. He once told me when we were working together at Best Buy that and this is his words, if I can, or I'm at least paraphrasing as little as possible. He said, "As an Irishman, I am both fascinated and terrified by what the Russians have managed to do with the potato."
Yeah, it's funny.
That has always stuck with me.
So, speaking of cool stories, you just finished your first week at Goddard.
Yep, I just finished my first week last week, and I'm partway into my second week, which is officially the first week. But for our listeners who may not be aware, I'm doing a residency course in Baltimore for my graduate course this summer, which means that I'll be away for a week and won't be able to do the internship. Because of that, they let me come in a week early so that I could front load some extra time in, so that I would still have 10 weeks in total.
What day are you there now? Like, how many days have you been working?
Oh, I've been there every day. So obviously I wasn't there last Monday because last Monday was a federal holiday, and then I didn't work. I worked from home on Thursday because I woke up with a screaming headache. But
so 7 days. Then.
Yeah, so that's what.
5 work days in a weekend. Okay. And so today's the 6th of June, 2023. I'm saying this for when you listen to this episode 10 years from now, by the way.
Yeah.
That's why I'm marking all this time.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so day one was last Tuesday. Talk to me about that.
Well, the first week, I was basically the only intern there. None of the other interns had come yet because it wasn't officially started yet. I wasn't just like the first communications intern. I was the first intern period, one of them probably. But it was really interesting. I got to I was sort of hit the ground running. I had stuff to do right off the bat. I got to sort of see the second day I was there, I was sitting in on a rehearsal that they had scientists doing that were going to be giving interviews about the Venus and the Da Vinci mission, which is a big mission that NASA Goddard has coming up.
When you say rehearsal, what do you mean? Now, was there like a big backdrop and a dude talking and cameras playing it?
I'll explain it. What it is there's a TV studio, and I can send you pictures.
Yeah.
I don't know if the one thing that might actually behoove us is to start an Instagram. And one thing I just spitballed right off the top of my head just now, might behoove us to start an Instagram channel for this page and start putting pictures that go with what we're talking about. I can look into that with you, because there's a podcast that I listened to for a while, and that's what they did. Is they have an Instagram channel, and every time they release an episode, they would release an Instagram, 1 or 2 Instagram posts with a collage of images as visual aids to what the guys on the podcast were talking about.
I trust you.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, yeah.
You should definitely. Whatever. Yeah. Just make me an admin on it. Will be.
Yeah, sure thing. Whatever you want, you got it. But like I said, I might look into that, because that could. I know that's kind of a digression from what we were talking about, but that might benefit our podcast.
But if you want to start an Instagram page, do it. For the Blanket Fort of Solitude, do it.
It'd especially be good because it could help me keep record of the NASA stuff. As we talk about NASA stuff that I'm doing, any pictures I've taken, we can share on the Instagram page, and they'll be connected to that episode, by having been posted.
Yes.
Episode, this is whatever episode this ends up being, it'll be, that it'll say in the post, episode 80 something or 90 or whatever, and it'll have 90. Yeah. So that makes sense because you just released 85 yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, and so there's a TV studio basically. There's control boards like you would have in a TV studio where they can control the sound, control B-roll, and all that stuff. And then there's an actual studio where they have cameras set up, and they set up these what we call subject matter experts, who are scientists and technicians, engineers from Goddard who work on all sorts of different things, and they get interviewed on whatever their area of expertise is, and for some campaign. Like the campaign that was last week, like I said, was Venus and Da Vinci. Because Venus was at its highest point in the sky last weekend, this past weekend, which is, I guess, is the weekend of, what is that, like June 3rd, Saturday the 3rd, Sunday the 4th. Yeah. So Venus was at its highest point in the sky that weekend. And as a result, we took advantage of that to...
Hello, stranger. Do you like to read?
Read? What's happening? Am I dead?
I bet you like zombie books.
I like food. Do you have food?
You don't need food at dividedbyzerobooks.com. It's full of nutrient-rich science fiction.
Ugh, I'm stuck in an ad, aren't I?
Once I stop talking, reality will collapse until someone plays this ad again. This isn't the first time we've had this discussion, and it won't be the last. Hello, stranger. Do you like to read?
Anyway, so you want to start an Instagram. If you want to manage an Instagram page for the Blanket Fortress of Solitude, go fucking nuts.
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. It would probably look really good on a resume, too, to manage a social media page for a business, because we're a business. And one of the things that I've been trying to do here at NASA, as I've picked up some more responsibility, is do like social media content management. So if I could put that on, again, I'm not trying to say this is the only reason I'm doing it, because it's not. I thought of this as a completely spur of the moment thing, this is what those guys on Fuckface did, which that's the name of the That's the name of the podcast I mentioned. It's called Fuckface.
Oh, okay. It's really called F-U-C-K face?
Yes.
That's what it's called. I just thought you hated them.
No, it's that's literally their name, and it's based on a joke from an old baseball card. Not to plug them too much, but there's an old baseball card where there's a baseball player from like the 70s or 80s. And in his rookie year baseball card, when he's holding his bat like this, you hold the bat up next to you like you're getting ready to take a swing, one of his teammates had written "fuckface" on the bottom of the bat, and it made it into the original run of the card. So he became known as Fuckface. So that's what they named their podcast, kind of in reference to that, because it's a fuck facing yourself. If I remember the lore of the podcast, this podcast correctly, is screwing yourself over for the sake of a good joke.
Sure. Fuckface was a common sort of like a fun nickname that people gave each other in the Army. Like, hey, fuckface, come here, I got something for you.
Well, just so you know, one of the three main guys from this podcast, from Rooster Teeth, who's the guy from Rooster Teeth. Rooster Teeth, who made Red vs. Blue.
Yeah.
Jeff was the guy who was in the Army.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
fuckface makes a lot of sense then. I get it. Oh man, yeah. We'll have to link Rajan with it too. And fuck, dude, you caring so much about this to want to run an Instagram page? Oh my God. You talk about wanting to find a partner like me, buddy. I've been looking for a partner like you. And it's tremendous. It's everything.
Just don't start singing Foreigner. I've been waiting.
No, I'm happily married. Happily married. No, we'll have to link Rajan with that, because over on the Patreon page, Raj and I are really kind of finding a good groove on recording episodes there, and we kind of have the show figured out to where it's just two middle-aged veterans being emotionally vulnerable on a microphone.
Yep.
And so a lot of it's like, you know, like I don't know, like this is what I think masculinity is, and this is, you know, and these, you know, and why won't my dad call me, and you know, like I'll never talk to my dad again, and you know, all these fucking issues and shit. And it's okay, you can laugh. I'm saying it in a funny way, so you can laugh. It's fine. And could you say I say things like this because I used to do it just because I figured out how to make people laugh with all of the sadness, so then that way I could like
pretend it's not so sad.
Oh yeah, oh man.
If you can laugh at the sadness, you can pretend that it's not really sadness, at least for a little while.
You can get through to tomorrow, and that's tomorrow Derwin's fucking problem. But anyway, enough of my sadness, because that's the other show. This show is about you and your adventure in NASA right now.
Mm-hmm. So this week, the other interns started showing up, and I got to meet them. There are. Did I tell you about this? Did I tell you this last week? You know one of the best things about being a dude in communications. Everyone else in communications is women.
Ladies.
I mean, we might edit this out of the podcast, but you know,
you're a single heterosexual guy. You're allowed to be excited to be in a room full of pretty ladies. That just makes sense. Like, you're a successful guy. They're successful ladies. If everyone's single and ready to mingle, God bless all y'all. You know, it's cool.
I haven't told you yet. This isn't actually a current intern, but a former intern who was actually like a four-time. She was the four-time intern before I was. Yeah. She invited me to go to Pride this weekend in DC.
Go to Pride. Go to Pride. Now it might not be like a romantic date if she's invited you to Pride.
Yeah. Well, she did say, and I'll say this. I said, I'm not gay, so I'll just be there as an observer. She said, I'm not gay. I'm cishet too, but you know, I want to go have fun.
Well, then you should go have fun with a nice young lady. God bless you, my son. Enjoy the gay pride parade. Because, well, like me and Meg, we were going to march in Pride this year because she volunteers with the Damien Center here in town, and the Damien Center is, you know, they do STD stuff. They do like support for HIV research. And so anybody who volunteers with the Damien Center gets invited to go march in Pride. And I was like, we should march in a parade. And she's like, well, I got to work on that Saturday. I was like, fuck.
Derwin loses out on an opportunity to make himself seen.
I just want to like be objectified by like drunk gay men. Is that too much to ask?
I'll do it for you.
There you go. Listen. Okay, have you hung out with gay dudes a lot before?
Not a lot, but I've been around. Oh. You understand that all of my creative writing friends are like on the LGBT spectrum, right?
Okay, but that's different than Pride. Pride is, I've been to Pride. Pride's a great time. I went to go to Pride with my wife. We have wedding rings. We're clearly straight. We're barely even visible as humans there. Fantastic. So I took my brother to Greg's, which is a gay bar here in town, when we were in college about a decade ago. Listen, so you are free. I took a buddy of mine there once, this skinny kid from the Army, and he wasn't really confident enough to say no, right? Because sometimes gay men, you gotta be like, no. You gotta put your hand up and be like, no, sir, I don't want to participate, right? That's if they're like really drunk. But this kid, I see him, and this guy's like, oh, let's go dance. And this kid's like, I don't know if I want to dance. And he gets pulled up into the ground. And I'm like, we gotta find Jeff. Jeff was fine. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, don't tell them you've never been to Pride before. Just kind of keep, because they'll look at you and they'll say, oh, he's fresh meat. Just saying, you're going to be the pretty girl at the bar, dude. That's what's going to happen.
I mean, I guess I could use the the like self-esteem boost.
The self-esteem's amazing. Like fuck. Just the self-esteem is incredible. Like having a bunch of men just objectifying you. Oh my God, it feels fantastic. I'm not interested in sex with any of them, but the attention feels really nice. Just don't go to a second location. Like, that's what I'm saying. If you go to a second location, I can't help you.
God damn.
You're on your own, bud. It's between you and God. Just don't tell your dad what happens.
It's funny. I told my dad. I talked to my dad on the way home today. I was coming across the intercounty connector, and it was a toll road, which is fucking beautiful, and because it flies, which is a whole nother story. I called my dad and I told him I'd been invited to go to Pride with my friend, and he's like, I'm going to tell my friends my son's going to Pride in DC. And I'm like, Dad, I'm not gay. I know you wouldn't give a shit even if I was. So why are you acting like an ass?
But he's of the generation, I feel, that's like had a lot more clearly defined boundaries in those areas. Yeah. Your dad sounds I've met the guy. Yeah, I'm sure he's great. Oh, excuse me. But anyway, tell me about the young lady that invited you to Pride.
Okay, so she was, like I said, a 4-time intern. She was actually a 4-time intern before being a 4-time intern was allowed.
Yeah.
And, they basically pulled some strings to allow her to be a 4th-time intern because she was such a, go-getter. And she was, I believe, on the Live Shots team, which is
what
I did last week.
What was she on?
Live Shots team, I think.
What's that?
Which is what I was doing last week. That's the people who coordinate like interviews with talent, with subject matter experts.
Right.
And she was like actually at a couple of launches, because she was remote, but she was local to Florida, so she actually got to go to Kennedy a couple times and like be there for. I think she tried to be there for the Artemis 1 launch, but she ended up not getting to go because it got delayed, and then the second time she couldn't make it. So, but she was there to try and be there for the Artemis launch back in like September or November, whatever it was. But that's what she did. She was like a live events or like a live coverage specialist, and now she's working as a public relations person here for some organization, for some like public organization here in the DC area. And but I just talked to her today. We both applied to a same job that would be in Houston at NASA Johnson, doing like scientific writing and outreach for the ISS, like the science mission of the ISS. So I have
many friends in Houston.
Yeah. Oh, so if I end up going there, I might have some people who can give me some pointers on where to.
I mean, Raj is in Houston.
Oh, that's right. Duh. I'm not that stupid.
Hey, I mean, you've only met the guy over a Zoom once, and you've heard stories about him for a couple of years, so it makes sense you haven't followed his entire journey.
Well, I mean, it's like. You've told me this a couple of times. That's where he is, and then I think we mentioned it earlier tonight. And then you mentioned having friends in Houston. I'm like, oh, you do? Who are they?
You're good, man. You're good.
Yeah.
So tell me. So you hanging out with this young lady a lot, or?
I haven't actually met her yet. That's the fun thing. Because she, like I said, we were both remote for my first 3 internships, or for my first 2 internships. She actually got, I won't say booted because that has the wrong connotation. She wasn't booted. She couldn't do any more internships because they said, well, we don't have a role for you, but we can't give you another internship because that would be exploitative because there's no benefits and so on. That's the reason why they only let you have so many.
I mean, yeah, it's not, some.
It's paid work, but it's not with benefits. So the government doesn't let you just have 20 internships in a row.
It's very temporary. Yeah. And that makes sense. And yeah, it's by no failure on her part, of course. Yeah. It's more just they just ran out of interest. But
I figure she'll be back at NASA at some point because I follow her Instagram. She posts like every day about like space facts and stuff. She wants to work at NASA. She's gonna end up working at NASA whenever they have a role that's perfect for her. and there's bound to be one at some point. So yeah, I not actually met her in person because she was local to, I think like Orlando is where she was going to school, and I'm obviously local. I'm like you. I'm local to Indy, so we were in totally different states. But now it just so happens that she's living in DC for her current job. So I messaged her on Instagram a couple weeks back and said, "Hey, I'm going to be in the DC area for an in-person internship." She's like, "Oh yeah, we should totally hang out." And I'm like, "Yes, let's do that."
Do you have a picture, a PG picture? Of course,
Yes,
you'll have the R-rated pictures, but I make it, when I ask anybody, I say, "Hey, do you have a PG picture?"
Yes.
I do. Oh, she's cute.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool, sir.
Yep.
Meg wants to see the picture.
He wants to see the picture. Now I got to get it back. Hey, Meg.
Hi.
Yeah.
Clearly, you guys aren't recording this, so.
Oh, we are.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Just a second.
You have to cut this part out.
Trying to get it.
What is she holding? Oh,
She's not holding anything. She's pretending to hold the SLS.
That's cute.
That's really cute.
Love it for you.
Awesome, sir.
Yeah, we haven't met in person yet, Meg, because she was local to Florida.
Have you video chatted yet?
No, that's actually a really good idea.
I would do that. I'm sure she's a wonderful person. I would do that before you meet up with her.
Yeah, because I mean, we were in video meetings, like Teams meetings.
Yeah.
We could probably do that before we meet up, just so that we like chat face to face before we like meet each other face to face.
At least that way, you kind of get a general like vibe of how things are going.
Mm-hmm.
That's so fucking cool, man. And yeah. I missed you. I can't wait for you to come home. Well, I'll be honest though. There is a little part of me that kind of hopes you don't. Like
it hopes I come home like just so I can move back, like full time.
Kinda, and that's not. It's like I told you it with the when I asked you if you saw Good Will Hunting, because at the end of it, Matt Damon's character has a choice to make. He can either stay with all his friends, stay with fucking his therapist Robin Williams, stay with Chucky, who's played by Ben Affleck, or he can go out west and see about a girl. And then his friend Chucky is like, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing here? We're gonna wake up tomorrow and we'll be 50, and I'll still be breaking bricks at the fucking construction site. But if you stay here, then that's a waste of everyone's time. You don't owe it to yourself. You owe it to me and everyone else here to see how far your brain will take you." And I was thinking about that the other day. And I was like, oh, I kind of feel like that. But then again, I'm also like a lot older than you. And then I'm like, oh, I'm probably closer to Robin Williams. Because Robin Williams has like PTSD from the war. And then at one point, Matt Damon's character just provokes him to the point because he's trying to get under Robin Williams' skin. And then you can kind of see how Robin Williams, like, you're like, because at a certain point his character snaps and you're like, oh, he was in Vietnam. And he grabs Matt Damon by the throat and slams him against the wall. And that was in a therapy session.
He's a good actor. You know, everybody loves to think of Robin Williams as just a funny guy. He certainly was that, but he was also a damn good actor.
Now if you don't get me wrong, also if you like bought the house next door and then you were just like my neighbor, that would be amazing, and I would love every day of that. But selfishly, there's a little part of me that's like, I hope he gets like some job on like the moon or something. Like he could. He's really smart.
I tell you, I'm not getting a job on the moon until they make lunar travel routine.
Or you maybe fucking something with SpaceX or I'm sure Amazon delivers packages into the future. They probably have a time vortex somewhere in like Utah.
I don't think either Elon or Bezos want me after all the shit I've talked about them.
Well, they're not going to care if you make them money. Like, who gives a shit about any of that? If we're making money, we're making money. Personal opinions are for your off time, but making money is making money, man. This is America.
That's true.
Anyway, sir. back to your first week. So
Yeah.
you were sitting in rehearsals for fucking what?
Live shots.
What is that?
Well, that is like it's we have scientists, mostly scientists. There's also some engineers and just, even sometimes public relations people who we put in touch with news stations like TV news, radio news, whatever, to give them interviews about the areas of expertise these scientists and engineers and so on have. So for last week, it was Venus, because Venus was at its highest point in the night sky. When we decided, we can talk about how to go out and observe Venus in the night sky, but also use that as sort of a jumping off point to talk about Da Vinci, which is this big mission we've got coming up to launch in 2029, which is going to drop like a beach ball sized descent probe through the atmosphere of Venus. And,
Okay.
Yeah. And take lots of pictures, take lots of measurements, readings, all of that sort of stuff, and beam the data back so that scientists can use it for years and years to help perfect our understanding of Venus. And they had I want to say almost a dozen scientists and technicians and people in total, from all related to the Da Vinci mission in some way, who were slotted into different time slots. It's sort of like what I used to do when I worked at the TV station, which if you never knew I worked at a TV station, I worked at a TV station. I worked at Nexstar, which is like WGN and BTV, and I slotted commercials into commercial space. This is kind of the opposite. You're slotting stuff into actual coverage space. And what I did on last Friday was every 10 minutes I was calling up some TV station's control room, and it could be anywhere in the country. I think the last one of the day was maybe San Francisco or San Diego. So it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon our time. It's 10 a.m. their time.
Okay.
And I'd call up the control room and say, "Hey, are you ready for our interview? Do you need us to roll B-roll?" And then I would give that information to the guys in my control room, and then the talent would be on camera. And basically, it's a hookup, in a manner of speaking. You're hooking up our footage with their control room, so that our footage then gets beamed out through their broadcast. So it's you have usually at least the scientist or whoever it is, and sometimes also B-roll. So like footage that they have in the can to use for this is what Venus looks like, and this is what maybe going. This is a graphic or like a digital video representation of what descending through the clouds of Venus looks like. This is a digital graphical representation of what the spacecraft might look like when it reaches Venus and is descending through the clouds and so on. And basically just giving interviews and helping spread the word about the mission and about Venus and about what our goals are, and fielding questions that might pop up. One of the things they did during the rehearsals is they primed each scientist who rehearsed with a question that might be like a hardball question, why are we going to Venus? What's the point of going to Venus if it's this hot dead world? Which is something that some stations might bring up if they wanted to be rough with the talent, because one of the things I think the average person doesn't realize about the news, at least this kind of news, is we put out what's called a notice. And the notice has what news is and what we're intending to talk about. And then they can formulate their own questions, their own ad copy, their own roll-in copy, whatever you would call it, based on that. So out of the 10 interviews I sat in on Friday, about 7 or 8 of them had the same introduction, because they were going off of what's on the notice. And then they would prime the subject matter expert with questions that were also on the notice. And there'd be some patter, some regular, just off the cuff stuff they'd come up with to sort of keep the conversation flowing. But mostly it was just pitching questions at the talent, the subject matter experts, so they could then talk about their area of expertise. And we do this for all sorts of things. I helped virtually do basically the same thing back in October for the lunar eclipse that we had. And I'm actually doing another live shot later this month for the summer solstice. We're doing one on the 21st for the summer solstice, where there are going to be scientists talking about, hey, this is I'm assuming, if I remember correctly, what our angle for this one is it's the big year of heliophysics, because there's a mission that's going to touch the sun next year. There's the 2 big eclipses coming up in the next year and a half, stuff like that. And I'm going to be talking about all of that in relation to this, what do I call it? Solstice, the longest day of the year, and how that relate and why that is, and why we have the longest and shortest days of the year, things like that. So we're using an inroad, which is the scientific topic that's like common to people's lives they can relate to, and we're using that as a jumping off point to talk about our own missions and our own goals and things. And the cool thing about Goddard that I found out, I think just yesterday, on our tour, I was on our tour with some of the other incoming interns, is that Goddard handles that for basically the entire agency. We have Goddard TV, but we do basically all the live shots for the entire agency. Like a couple of weeks ago, we had the Artemis II astronauts come to Goddard and be interviewed by a couple of people I know in the studio where I was, just yesterday, visiting. And,
did you get to say hi to him?
Oh no, I wasn't there. No, this is before my internship started, and I wasn't even in Maryland yet. But yeah, they actually had the 4 astronauts were going to fly around the moon next year in the studio to be interviewed, and then obviously those interviews were put in the can and then sent out to all these stations for broadcast, so that the public could then broadcast and also streaming on YouTube and on social channels, all that stuff. And we run that for all sorts of different projects. Really, if I remember what Wade said correctly, the only organization in the agency that really does its own thing is Kennedy, and that's because they have launches. They have their own local entity that takes care of launch coverage because it's such a big deal. It's so complicated. But I actually know someone there too who was an intern when I was an intern. But yeah, Goddard takes care of lots of live coverage stuff for all sorts of different topics all over the agency. And yeah, and that's one small part of what we do. I was talking with Wade yesterday, who was my supervisory mentor, and I was talking with a gentleman today that I was interviewing about an article. There's so many different types of communication that we do that you might not even think of, and a lot of them overlap, and a lot of them are multifaceted, because you have to, if you're going to be a communications person at NASA, you have to know how to do social media at certain points. You have to know how to do science writing, which is what I'm obviously focusing on, because that's that's what my degree is in, or what my degree is going to be in. And then you have live coverage, which is live shots. You have all sorts of stuff. And then you've got people like Jim Garvin and Michelle Fowler, who they're actually practicing scientists. Scientists who actually are in the lab and using data brought back from spacecraft to do real world science, but they're also science communicators. So they're the Carl Sagans and Neil deGrasse Tysons of Goddard. Because, we're really
met these people.
What?
You met these people?
Oh yeah, I haven't met them in person yet, but I've met both of these people, both Michelle Fowler and Jim Garvin, on Zoom, on Teams, for interviews, because I interviewed them I interviewed Jim Garvin about Venus for a different article last year, and then I don't think I interviewed Michelle Fowler. I think I just chatted with her, because she was actually one of the subject matter experts for the lunar eclipse live shots, and she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I want to have a chat with you on Teams to say thank you for all of the work you did." Because apparently, I think the word might have gotten to her that I was a fan. Because if you don't know who Michelle Fowler is, you'd know if you'd know her if you knew her, because she's been on the Science Channel and the Discovery Channel and shows like the Universe for years and years, And
is there a YouTube channel for Goddard TV like you're talking
yes.
about?
Well, there's a NASA Goddard YouTube channel for sure.
So you could potentially be on interviews there, and then I could watch those interviews that you do?
I probably wouldn't be in on the interviews because that's not my department, but you could watch the stuff that I might be involved in. Or I tell you what, I don't know if it's probably still on the website, because I don't know why they would have gotten rid of it. If you could get on WGN America and look up their news coverage from last Friday, you can probably find the coverage of the of Venus, because one of the markets that picked up our coverage was WGN, which is out of Chicago, and my mom and stepdad were actually watching it on their computers while the scientist was being interviewed, and they got to see Giada, who's one of the deputy PIs for Da Vinci, give her spiel and do her thing. I have at least a 45-minute drive into work.
Are you listening to our podcast on the drive to work?
I have not been yet, but I should be able to, starting maybe even by like tomorrow or the next day. The reason I haven't is because I've been using my GPS on my car to figure out my route, and I was still figuring it out up until like today. So tomorrow is probably
more important.
Yeah, tomorrow is probably going to be my dry run for like seeing if I still need the GPS. Once I've got the route like memorized and don't need the GPS unless there's like a road closure or something, I will start listening to podcasts, and ours will be at the top of the list. I can listen to the ones that I'm behind on or whatever there might be, because I was pretty up to speed. I was pretty up to date, obviously, until I left, I think. Yeah,
you moved out of state. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I think the next time I see you, I'm probably gonna wrap this up tonight here pretty quick. Just because I want to hang out with the wife and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Send me that link to the thing.
I sent you a link to a news article about it. I couldn't find on the WGN website. I don't know where to look for like past like news clips. I'll look that up on YouTube when we're done talking, so I don't have to like waste time. But that news article is like their coverage of the report of the notice that we sent out. Like when you see, if you happen to see a name in that article that I linked to you from WGN.com, where if you happen to see the name Michelle Handelman, she's the boss of the Live Shot team. She was like my lead on that Live Shot campaign, and she's great.
Sounds great. So I'm no pressure. You starting an Instagram page sounds fantastic.
I'm gonna look at that right now. We're done.
Blanket Borders, it's super easy. I have one. It's called Starfleet Veteran. But
I've got an Instagram page. You know that.
Yeah, but I don't really do anything with it, and Instagram's not one that I'm super familiar with. And you seem to be a real practitioner of it, so go nuts and just make me like an admin on it, and then and so that way I can just like see what's going on. But if you want to use it to document your adventure, and then like go Instagram live, say, hey, this is Nick from the Blanket Fortress of Solitude, and I'm over here in a NASA spaceship, and we're going into space, and like, oh my god, I don't have a spacesuit, and this is how the story ends, and then you die. But maybe don't die, because then like I have to, you actually
have to associate with people again.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, that sounds really good. I think the next time I see you in person will probably be when I'm in DC.
Yep. I was thinking about that just today.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I don't know if I'm hoping I'll be able to get down and see like the monuments and some of the museums before you're here, because otherwise that'll be the first time I get down there. And I obviously I'll be down there this weekend, so hopefully I'll get to do some stuff then. I
so look forward to hearing about how Pride goes for you this weekend. This is great. You got asked out by a girl, man. That's pretty fucking cool. I like that. Definitely talk to her like on Zoom before you do it. Yeah. Just to kind of get a feel for how things are.
Yeah. And one thing that I think my aunt and my dad both pointed out is, I think this is Nick now pulling a Derwin and making things like super depressing and dark before we end the podcast. In today's climate, we might actually need to like make sure we have like at least a strategy worked out in case things go wrong at Pride, because of like hate trying people.
Yeah. Did I ever give you a tourniquet?
I don't think so. But my aunt is a nurse. She probably has one somewhere.
Like the Velcro ones? I showed them to you, but I never gave you one.
I don't know.
Okay, I need to give you one. I take tourniquets to, like, when I go to the county fair, I take a combat application tourniquet. The ones we had in the Army for, like, extremity wounds. Like, if you get shot in the arm, they're really good. You know, like one of the big things that killed people in the Vietnam War was extremity shots. This means, like, you bled out through your arms or your legs. And the doctrine back then was completely backwards, because they thought, oh, you'd only put on tourniquets as a last resort because otherwise it'll damage the tissue. 20%, maybe 20%, I don't know, some huge ass number of combat related fatalities from the Vietnam conflict could have been avoided with the proper application of tourniquets. Because if someone gets shot, and this is not medical advice, if someone gets shot and if a medic applies a tourniquet to it quickly, the chances of that person who got shot surviving, statistically speaking, is much higher. Yeah. So again, not medical advice. But yeah, so those are, and they're lightweight. They're fucking Velcro. Don't buy anything from China. Those things fucking break. You'll see a bunch of them on Amazon out of fucking China. I mean, okay, maybe not anymore. Pre-pandemic, you would see a bunch out of China. No one really wants to buy anything from the Chinese after those assholes left the fucking fridge open in Wuhan, and then the world fucking shut down. But I think we can end there, and we'll talk
let's.
We'll talk a little bit afterward.
Sure.
For the Blanket Fortress of Solitude, I am Derwin.
I'm Nick.
And we will see you next Monday morning at 0700. Still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, Meg called.
Oh, you're fine.
She,
waifu call is more important.
Oh, always. And she goes, oh my God, Derwin, hi. And I'm like, so I'm recording a podcast right now on this phone. And she goes, oh my God, I'm so sorry. She hung up. No,
where is
okay.
she?
Anyway,
is she like away?
No, she just went to go get dinner with some friends or something, and she's on her way back. She probably just wanted to tell me what it was, and just forgot I was talking to you. It was exactly 1 month after I got to Iraq. Passed the PT test today. Not by a whole lot. Always a proud moment with every milestone I have. The things I've seen, the hijinks that ensue.
No! I can't believe it. All of the toilet paper's gone.